Hello, Guru Nation. Welcome back to the clinicaltrialsguru.com. I'm here with Rust Felix, CEO of Slope, and you can find their website at slope.io. We'll have links underneath this video on the podcast. It's all about, Rust has really found something that I'm surprised nobody has worked on a solution to this problem, which I have experienced firsthand. Rust, actually, one of my sites is moving right now, today. After this interview, I got to go over there and help them move. And we're drowning in lab kits. I mean, that's like the biggest thing that we're moving. And it's ridiculous because we don't need all those lab kits. Some of these studies have ended, and we're just holding them until the closeout visit. So lab kit inventory, sponsors oversupply. And Russ can tell the story better than I can because he's actively involved in solving this problem. So welcome, Rust.
Thank you so much, Dan. Glad to be here. And you know what? Let me tell you real quick how we got to this point. So for the past 5 years, I've had a few businesses that all focused on supply chain automation. And when you talk about the supply chain, it's getting one thing from over here to another thing over here. It's really matching supply and demand and monitoring that object as it passes. UPS comes and picks it up. They put it in their truck. They fly it to you. They get in another truck, watch your door, and give it to you. So I've got a lot of experience kind of understanding lots of different people and their needs and what they're sending and what they're receiving, and it's extremely chaotic. So we got into clinical research, looking at the supply chain of clinical research, because, if you're a study site and you're running a trial, you've got a lot of different things coming from a lot of different suppliers. Sometimes there's equipment, then thermal shippers and lab kits and study drug. There's just a tremendous amount of things that need to show up to your study site at a very particular time point so you can use those things to facilitate patient care. And the biggest problem that we found is the people that are sending these lab kits and thermal shippers have no idea how many of these objects the site actually needs. And so, here's the way we found, a sponsor typically thinks about it. Okay, you want to make sure that the site has enough lab kits on hand, because they don't want an outage, because a specimen collection outage is a bad thing. It could lead to deviations. You could end up, not enrolling a patient. So sponsors want to make sure there's plenty of lab kits on site. But what happens with that when every single sponsor and every single central lab is thinking that way? Sites end up drowning in lab kits. I was talking to a coordinator yesterday, a guy named Stephen Grantham. He works at the LA Children's Hospital. He and his team are running 48 trials. And he said that every single sponsor who's sending lab kits is sending 2 to 3 times as many lab kits as the site actually needs. So he said that they had to find this area under a parking garage to store all these extra kits. He said they're towering everywhere. It's a huge problem. Sites know about this problem. Coordinators know about this problem. But biopharma has no idea how bad it is. And we've been running a lot of surveys with coordinators all around the world. And 100% of the time, a coordinator is either going to say, we've got way too much, or we don't have enough.
Yeah.
I've not spoken with one coordinator yet who actually said, we always have exactly what we need all the time.
Right.
And that's really the problem that we're trying to solve, matching supply and demand so sites have exactly what they need. I call it the Goldilocks problem. If you send too many lab kits to a site, these coordinators are spending a lot of time, the research assistants are spending a lot of time managing these kits, managing expiration dates. There's a hospital I was talking to in New York City. They've got 10 different locations where they store kits.
Was this
They've
Mount
got people
Sinai?
running everywhere.
Mount Sinai?
Mount Sinai.
Yeah, I was just there last week. I was going to bring it up. I met with the site director of one of the Manhattan office up there on 5th and 90 something. And she said they have a separate suite just for lab kits. Like
It's
they rented an entire office just for that.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. So if a site has too many lab kits and thermal mailers on hand, you're taking away site time from patient enrollment and patient retention and research activities that actually help the study.
So, Rust, you're going to be going to ACRP with Slope in April in
Yeah.
DC, and after ACRP, this is when your app will officially be released to the public.
So we're actually launching it at the ACRP conference in late April. You know, people that sign up for the waiting list now by visiting slope.io, they're probably going to have a chance to play with it because we've got a pretty robust beta that we're doing right now. We actually have a couple sites, a couple coordinators around the country that are playing with it. If you like playing with new toys and new things, I encourage you to sign up. That's your best chance. But yeah, we're launching officially a web app at the ACRP conference. We went with a web app because it's accessible through any browser. You can use it on your desktop, your laptop, your mobile phone. Everything is going to be very responsive and very well designed and easy to use. And there's a couple of things that the app's going to do. It's going to help you manage your lab kits. It's going to help you track who's using your lab kits. Everything's going to be recorded in an audit trail, or an event timeline. So we're tracking everything. Slope is going to help you remember where things are stored. Because, you were talking the Mount Sinai, they've got multiple locations.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got a patient visit coming up in about 4 hours and you're trying to remember which of those 10 locations your, kit stored at, that can be a bit of a hassle. Slope will remember that for you. And then lastly, it's going to give you alerts to expiring kits. And that's really the biggest feature that coordinators have been asking us for. Is it's really hard. A lot of people don't track it, and the ones that do use Microsoft's Excel sheets. So we're actually going to be pushing out alerts and notifications letting you, hey, you've got 3 immunologic blood draw kits that are going to be expiring in 2 weeks. Heads up.
You
So
guys
those are
let them, and that's free.
yeah, that's free. This is completely and totally free for the study site.
So when I get a kit from any study, I take my phone, I take a picture of the kit. Is that how it works? Or I scan the barcode or something?
We're going to be bringing the barcode scanning in later. What you
Okay.
do right now is you just add it to your clinical trial, and then you can, select where it is, what the expiration date is, and then you've got it.
Interesting.
Our hope down the line is as more and more people use it, we start rolling out features where, you'll get notified of an inbound shipment from your central lab. And so things will automatically show up
Hmm.
when that package is delivered to your
So
site.
you're trying to integrate that from the lab itself when they ship
Right.
the site the kits. Okay.
Right. So we're trying to bring that into it. We're looking at multiple different ways for labs, or pardon me, for sites to track consumption. You can do it on the web app manually. You can do it with a barcode scan. We're looking at RFID readers.
Mm-hmm.
We've done air bill tracking, which is when you put a specimen in a thermal shipper and send it to a lab, we actually know the tracking number on that air bill, so we can use that to, control your inventory levels. But the whole idea is make it easy to know where your kits are. Make it easy to know how many you have, and make it easy to understand when things are going to expire.
Yes, and it's actually part of our SOP because it doesn't sound like a big deal, but if you end up using an expired lab kit, that data is not valid. And if you are a high enrolling site and you didn't realize your mistake and you end up repeating the same mistake on multiple subjects, now that becomes a um, corrective action item. So you have to do a whole corrective action plan, you can get audited. They can actually shut down your screening because you're
Yeah.
wasting sponsor money at this point because that data is not good, not usable, invalid. Even if
And
it's a 1 day expired kit, we all know the tests are still probably valid, but in the
right.
world of research, they're not. And so that's the rules we got to follow if we're in this industry.
Another thing I see happening a lot are scavenged kits where you have coordinators that are pulling together parts from 3 or 4 different kits. You might have something from visit 2 and you're pulling something over here from visit 7. The goal of this is to eliminate the outages and eliminate the need for scavenging, to track everything in a way that lets you know who used what when. And I think there's a tremendous amount of value there.
Yeah, I've done a fair amount of scavenging when I was coordinating, using the early term kit visits for screening. You just kind of improvising as you go, pulling out different
Right.
tubes, causes a whole bunch of queries. Technically, you're not causing any protocol deviations, but it's just a mess, right? And it's
Right.
time.
It's a mess, and as you scavenge from a kit, now that kit's been affected.
Yeah,
And so the next time you need that kit, you got to scavenge.
I know
It's
you
just
got to
like,
discard it or just use like some
right.
of the tubes for other visits when you need them. Now, just wanted to talk to you about. I know slope doesn't have anything to do with this, but it's always been something I've been interested in. So we're supposed to destroy our kits when the study's over, or we can ship them back to the sponsor, but that rarely gets done. Now, what we have been doing, and I'm not going to mention which site because I don't know if it's legal or not. We've been donating kits to third world countries that actually need the kits. They're expensive, right? So rather
Right.
than destroying them, we would send them to different charities, like healthcare organization charities in Mexico or in the Philippines. We've been doing that. Now, do you know anything about that since you're in this world? Like, technically, you're supposed to destroy them, but would anyone have any issue with the site doing this? We've asked sponsors, and sponsors have told us it's up to us, whatever we want to do. Others have told us, no, you need to destroy it. Uh, what are your thoughts on this, and have you had these kind of discussions with sponsors?
So let me tell you first, you are not alone. What we found is at least 25% of lab kits are wasted due to oversupply or expiration before you can use them. And I've spoken with a lot of sites who are in this position, like they hate waste. Like they're the ones that are having to break down these kits and throw away thousands and thousands of dollars of things that could be used to help people.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like, how the FDA for a large part operates in a gray area. And
Yeah.
that's what I've kind of seen lab kits reuse or upcycling. If I had the time, I would love to start, a 501c3 that
Hmm.
actually worked with sponsors
That would make sense for
to,
you guys too.
yeah.
Yeah.
I just need to find 24 more hours in the day. But,
That's right.
like we work in an industry that is very SOP driven. And I think the reason a lot of people struggle here is there's not an SOP that's standardized for lab kit reuse.
Hmm.
There's some components that you really don't want to you want to throw those away. You don't want to gift those or upcycle those. There's other things that it just makes a lot of sense. And it really varies from trial to trial and sponsor to sponsor. And what I found through talking with lots of sponsors, lots of central labs, is they have no idea how bad it is. Like they just have no concept how much of their stuff's being thrown away. And if you look at the clinical trial waste, it's maybe for like a phase 2 or a phase 3, maybe $50,000 to $100,000.
Hmm.
And honestly, that's not a big deal to a lot of sponsors.
No.
But it's a big deal to sites because they're the ones that have to administrate it. And that's kind of our thesis is sites are the ones that don't like waste, while sponsors and CROs are the ones that want enrollment and retention. And so if the sponsors and the CROs are over here saying, you got to miss the site, you have to enroll a lot more, you're not screening enough, your enrollment's bad, enroll more, enroll more. But then over here, they're sending way too much. This coordinator's like, you're telling me to drive enrollment, but you're doing things that are taking my time away from that enrollment. And that's what we found from talking to coordinators. Lab kit management takes up a lot of valuable time that they could be using to do things that help the study. So
Yeah, it's very much related to sort of how everything else is kind of pushed down on the sites. As an example, risk-based monitoring and remote monitoring. It sounds like a good idea in theory, but in reality, you're wasting so much of the site's time with scanning and uploading documents. Sites
right.
have to now hire separate personnel just to scan documents, and they're not negotiating these in their budgets. And the sponsors, I mean, they're trying to run their trial more efficiently, but it's at the expense of the site's time, and it's on the burden
Right.
of the site. Same thing with the lab kits here. So it's the CROs are partially to blame as well. They just want to make sure that they don't drop the ball. So the only way to cover themselves is to send way more kits than the site will ever need. Uh,
Right.
and so it just creates this inefficiency and this waste. I mean, it's definitely not green. Like there's so much waste going on. When we do discard our kits, we send them to the hospital that we're affiliated with, and they discard them. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they'll donate them. So once it's out of our hands, it's on them what they want to do with it.
Right.
But there's just tons of waste, and I think there could be a better way to go about it. And sounds like you guys are on the right track with those.
Well, my background, I've got an undergraduate and a master's degree in mechanical engineering. So, my background is all in driving and efficiency
Mm-hmm.
and, eliminating waste. And there's just so many things that could be done to help sites. I think it's an attitude on the sponsor side where it's like, we're paying them this much, they should be able to manage it. But there really needs to be more of, a partnership where everyone's looking across the board at all the things that can be done.
Yeah.
Because we can't forget, it's not about the dollars and the cents, it's about the patients.
Mm-hmm.
And anything that we can do to improve patient care is going to have a fantastic upstream effect.
So talk to me about ACRP. You guys have a booth. You're going to try. The challenge at these conferences is to always, I guess, sort of be engaging, be inviting, get a good turnout, and most importantly, have people remember their experience with you. So you guys have some interesting things planned for ACRP, and some pretty creative tactics. So why don't you talk to us about that and give everyone an incentive to stop by?
I would love, love, love to talk about that. So I'm 38 years old. I have been to probably at least 100 conferences throughout my professional career. And there's something that I call boring booth syndrome,
Yeah.
where you walk up to a booth, there's a couple of people standing there, you grab a pamphlet, you
Yeah.
ask some awkward questions, and then you move on. So what we've done is we've kind of come up
So
with
how often does
something
that happen? 90%
like
of the time?
99%. Yeah,
Wow.
90% of the time.
Okay.
And I'm a guy that likes to talk to people, and I've experienced boring booth syndrome firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
So our thing is this: study sites are overloaded, sites are drowning in lab kits. There's a lot of chaos. So what we've done is we're working with a game developer, and we've come up with a very interesting game that we're going to be releasing at the conference. We'll actually end up putting this on our website too down the line. But I don't want to give too much away, but it is a very fun way for you to become quickly familiar with the problems of finding a lab kit at a site. And then there's going to be a chance to win a Nintendo Switch too. So the person with the highest score is going to be eligible to win a Nintendo Switch. You can play as many times as you want to. It's just going to be a good time. We're going to try to to make it fun to learn about lab kit waste. So,
Which is a tough topic, but
right, it's
it
a
just
tough
shows.
topic to make fun.
Interesting. Okay, Rust. Well, next month, so it's March now, April, we're going to do a webinar, and then we're going to do another interview, probably talk about the origins of Slope. And when is ACRP?
It's right. I think it's like the 28th, 29th of April. It's at the very end of April. So, and they're expecting a really good turnout.
Maybe we
So,
can do our next interview of this three-part series, um, our third interview of this three-part series. Maybe we can do it live from ACRP,
oh yeah, that's a really good idea. I
right?
like that.
Because Skype works on your phone, so you can just, have it
Right?
out there. That'd be good. I think
Yeah,
that'd be
yeah,
really good.
I'm definitely up for that.
It's on the 27th, 28th, you said?
Yeah, 27th, 28th. Probably, I'll look at the actual timeline, but
Okay.
probably the afternoon of the 27th is going to be a good time.
All right, I'll put that in my calendar, and then I think that'll be a good to have a live interview from ACRP, and then we can talk
Yeah.
about conferences too. We can talk about um, good conferences, bad conferences, boring booths, how to get a proper booth set up, and how to make it engaging, all that kind of stuff. So it'll be a good interview. Looking forward to it, and then we'll do a webinar maybe after. So, okay, sounds good, Russ. Thank you very much, and looking forward to that. And thank you, Guru Nation, for listening. And we'll catch you all later. Bye bye.